Hi guys, I thought it might be interesting today to show you what we do to get ready for a project. A lot of people talk about the project and how long it takes, and they have a lot of questions about that, but I find there's a lot more time just getting ready to go than there is actually doing the project. Well, of course, some of it's hauling out the trash. Okay, so I got the heater all fired up now. I'll be glad when I don't have to do that anymore. What's next? I need to get Johnny here reconfigured. I'm gonna have to get him outside eventually. So I got a little bit of a problem there. I've got this garage door taken apart behind me here. We put those couple of pieces of steel up there, so the garage door support has been taken down. I didn't really want to have to put that all back up just to get Johnny out, but I can't get him out the other door because of the stuff on the lift. Yeah, normal day. Okay, I got those brackets both mounted, at least solid enough I ought to be able to get the door up. We're about 30 minutes into my day. Well, into the outside portion of my day. Still haven't moved the tractor. So what's next? Well, I got a bunch of stuff here behind Johnny. New garage door rails I have to move. Need to get all this stuff out of the way so I can get Johnny out, and then we'll have to take off his backhoe. Today's project has to do with a rock driveway grading. We're going to be working in the back lot of a Captain D's. The owner of this Captain D's and several other Captain D's in the area happens to be a TTWT viewer, and he contacted us last week and said he needed his driveway graded. Turns out he owns a 1025R and all the necessary equipment, but it's a long way away, so it's not easy for him to get up here, but he is going to meet us on the project. Okay, so while I was moving the scaffolding, I hit one of my big lights and it came tumbling down. Believe it or not, I caught it before it hit the ground, or at least before it hit the ground hard. So I see a broken wire here, but see, that'll be a maintenance project that'll be in the way of my next money-making project. It's just the way it goes. Okay, let's see if Johnny will start. What is the temperature in here now? It's 42 in here now, but it was 35 when I first came in. Here are the scratches I was telling you about. Some of it's dust on there, but there are some scratches. I don't know how bad they really are. I need to kind of clean them and polish them and see how bad they are. But that came from the brush at the last project. I'm gonna have to take these doors off and the vinyl off for transport. I don't think I'll even take them with me today because it's gonna be fairly warm, I think 50. Now it may be rainy, but I won't need the doors. Let's see if we can do this together. I'll pull upward on it, and then the bottom one comes out. Pretty shaky, wasn't it? But hey, I could essentially do it with one hand because I was holding the camera with the other. What do you think, Martha? Okay, here it goes. That's not hard at all. There's a couple of springs down here that serve to keep the vinyl kind of attached downwards, and it's kind of an exercise to the user to figure out where to hook those. I'm not even sure I've hooked them in the same place every time. Those springs are attached pretty well to the vinyl here, so I'm not really too worried about losing them unless they break. But that's easy enough. And there's one little strip of vinyl under the windshield there that I leave on. Good time to take a close look at this grapple before I take it off. I have, not been overly kind to it. You've seen what I've done. It's never my intent to wantonly abuse a piece of equipment, but I see no point in testing it unless I test it hard, unless I use it as hard as the tractor will use it. If it's not up for that, well, then you guys need to know and I need to know. So if you see a piece of equipment on this channel, it's going to be used. I see some scuff marks, of course. Someone asked about the hoses, whether they were protected or not. There is a protection bar here and a little channel for all the hoses. Now, you see some hanging down here. I asked for too long of hoses. Remember, this was a prototype grapple. I didn't know how long the hoses I would need, and I asked for 5-foot hoses to run to the diverter kit. It was way too long. So I've wrapped them in there an extra time. Yeah, you can see the extra wrapping. So yours won't come with 5-foot hoses. Yours will come with something much shorter, which is more appropriate. Now this grapple, the clamps fold all the way down against the pipe. And that allows me to push with these clamps without any fear of tearing up the cylinders. I don't put the stress on the cylinders. When we're pushing forward, using it as a bulldozer essentially, we're pushing against that pipe, which is safe, it's strong enough. One difference between this grapple and the competitor's grapple is that they have gussets across here. And they do that to strengthen, you know, these points. But the way this one's built, it's doubled the steel here. There's a formal name for that, I don't know what it is, on each one of these. And this allows us to slice through roots rather than those gussets just digging in and more plowing. They'll actually force you to dig in further. So, and then the ends here are doubled. The last point has steel on both sides of it. I don't see any evidence that any of those are bent. And as you've seen, I've pushed it hard. Okay, let's dismount this and put the bucket on. That's what we're going to need for today's project. Let's see if the door falls down. Yes, I need to tighten the spring, but I'm not gonna now because I've got a new door coming. The door hasn't fallen yet. Thank the Lord for small victories. That's right, you don't have to be straight on to get the bucket hooked on, as long as you're willing to push it around a little bit. Look at that. Broken glass in my bucket. Well, maybe not broken glass. I was gonna lick it to show how tough I am, and then I saw how dirty it was and decided maybe that wasn't a very good idea. So maybe I'm not as tough as I was thinking I was. Huh. Get in there and catch a mouse, Martha. Now, if you've watched some of our older episodes, you've seen me take off the backhoe and put it on a couple of simple furniture dollies. I highly recommend that approach for inside. That way you can roll it around, it's really nice. Because I'm putting up that ceiling, I don't have room to store this inside, so I have to store it outside for now. I would say that this 260 backhoe or 260B backhoe, either one, are so trivial to remove or attach that I don't really worry about how it's stored. I used to be worried about the hydraulics, you know, what happens when it leaks down, but I could just hook that Power Beyond back up when I come back to hook it up again and fix anything that has leaked or, you know, changed in an angle. It's just not any big deal at all. So I pull those two pins. You can angle it back a little bit like this, just enough that you can angle it all the way back if you want. I don't know. How do I do things with one hand? Well, there we go. So now I'm going to lower the feet, and you can see that I'll pick it right up out of those hangers that it's got down there. And we're essentially done. I'll have to unhook the Power Beyond with the tractor off, but I can leave it standing just like that, and it'll stand for several days. Eventually, these outriggers will leak down, but it's no big deal. I just took the Power Beyond back up, raised them right back up to where they were, and we're ready to go. One of the many changes on the 260B backhoe versus the 260 was the location and the routing of these Power Beyond hoses. People made a lot of fun of the 260 backhoe because it laid the Power Beyond hose right on the platform where you needed to stand. And yeah, it did look kind of primitive, but I must say that those hoses were easier to get to. This is a little bit hard to reach. They're supposed to be routed up through here. I've actually had to take one of them out. Otherwise it's not long enough to do that little trick I was just talking about. Oh, there we go. So if you're not familiar with the Power Beyond, these two hoses must be connected together for operation on the tractor side here. I won't be able to do that with one hand, but if you don't connect those together, the system will continually be in relief, and that's not a good thing. Not that hard to hook up. I just don't care for the angle. Even though the old one left it in a loop out here, it was much easier to deal with. Other than that, the 260B backhoe is a major improvement over the 260. It's much easier to handle. It doesn't jerk nearly as bad. You can become proficient with it much quicker. I really like the 260B backhoe. Now we're gonna go put the 3-point hitch arms on. We are 1 hour and 10 minutes into our morning setup process. I have about 2 hours, not quite 2 hours remaining if I want to eat lunch. If I don't want to eat lunch, I have another 30 minutes, but I want to eat lunch. Ah, you ask why I'm not using my Heavy Hitch weight cart. Well, I don't have enough carts to go around. I got too many Heavy Hitches. Is that possible? But notice that I do leave the 3-point hitch arms on the eye match. Seems an easier way to keep them together. Yes. I don't think I invited you. Now we can store an empty Heavy Hitch on this furniture dolly, but we can't store one with weights on it. It won't balance right. Doesn't work very well at all. The Heavy Hitch cart is an incredible device. I highly recommend it. As you know, we try to do a lot of different types of projects. So when I'm getting ready for a project, a lot of times I'm getting a totally different piece of equipment, making major changes day to day. If you do the same type of work every day, this would be a lot easier. One other aspect is I often need to set up a brand new piece of equipment, and that's what's happening today. I got this land plane from Tufline.com. I've had it sitting outside for quite some time. Today we're going to actually set it up and see if it'll work for us. Doesn't really look like there's much to the setup process. There was a 2x4 here attached to the bottom side. This is the assembly for the top link. It does look like I've already caused some damage with my forks at some point, probably this morning. Okay, I've got it all assembled. Now we have to see which holes line up for the 3-point hitch. That takes 2 hands here. In this project, I don't really know what I'm getting into. I have only one photo to go by, and it shows a hard-packed driveway. Now it is wet right now, which I think works in our favor, but I'm not sure that this land plane is going to be able to dig it up. I hope it can, because I think that would be the easiest way to do a good job on this project. But since I'm not totally sure and it's more than an hour away, I'm going to try to get a box blade ready so that I can have some scarifiers if I need to dig in. Let me see the time. 2.5 hours in, I have 30 minutes left if I want a cheeseburger. Hopefully there won't be too much setup to this unit, just installing the scarifiers. Now this box blade is the same style, the same model that I used earlier in Box Blade Abuse. Well, the title was appropriate for that video because I did abuse it. So the folks at Tufline were kind enough to send me another one. They certainly didn't need to because I was the one that abused the blade. It wasn't a case of the blade failing prematurely. Now I will tell you from experience that this is, when I'm focused on something like this, is exactly the time where I'm liable to hit something with the backhoe, something on the back of the tractor where I'm not watching. And when you have a helper, they want to tend to do the same thing. Watch the very point where all the action's taking place, and they might miss what's going on behind you, or one of the sights that you're not seeing. It's just human nature to do that. So yeah, I peeked around here on the backside. I'm pretty close, but still doing okay. Okay, how about having the forks off center like that? Is that a problem? Well, it is if you have a really heavy load for your machine. In this case, that box blade wasn't too heavy for a 2 Series tractor. For Johnny, it would have presented an issue. Okay, let's get those scarifiers on and get loaded. Okay, we're getting closer. I've got to get the Heavy Hitch and a Heavy Hitch blade off the trailer. They were on there from an earlier project. Turns out I didn't use the Heavy Hitch blade, but I thought I might use it on the back of Vinny for that last project with Danny, so I had them. I just haven't pulled them off the trailer until now. It feels like one of those baking challenges that Christy and Catril make me watch on TV. Bakers, you have 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm getting in a hurry now. Shouldn't have picked it up so aggressively. Getting in a hurry is a bad thing. You'll be a lot safer when you're deliberate, taking things slowly. I'm preaching to myself here. Uh-oh, I forgot something. Bad news. Well, I'm gonna break a cardinal rule because of time, so. Certainly if you're working with a bumper pull trailer, do not load the trailer until it's hooked to the truck. Now in our case here, we have this 28-foot hydraulic dovetail, and so it's got jacks up front that hold it down, it's got the dovetail in the back that holds it down, and it's got the tandem axle. So I think we're okay, but it is not a good idea to load a trailer not hooked to a truck. So why did I choose to load the trailer without hooking the truck to it first? Well, that's the item I forgot. Let me introduce you to my new diesel tank. 250 gallons, no pump yet. I'll show you that in another episode, we just don't have time. From here, it looks like my forks are too far apart. That looks better. The tank is empty. Well, it may have just a tad of gasoline in it, but I'm going to use it with diesel. I'm not too worried about that. Good temporary spot for it right here on this pallet. Got to put that ball in. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now here's something bizarre for you. When the tailgate's down, why does it beep at me saying that I'm about to hit something? You would think with all the electronics in this vehicle they could determine that the tailgate is down, so what the camera is seeing is not really relevant. The resolution on the camera combined with a little bit of fog or something makes it really hard for me to get it just right. So it looks like I might be off to the side here. Another complaint is that the camera selection that I make is gone every time I shift out of reverse. A little too far back. Have to reselect the camera each time, which, like I say, is an irritant. Now, in one of Trooper Hoover's videos, we talked about safety chains, and he said that there had to be a separate safety chain for the brake. He later called and corrected me. He said that you can connect your emergency brake release to the safety chain like that. Okay, we got to get Johnny loaded and tied down. We'll be ready to go. Unfortunately, my cheeseburger is in question. I'm now at 3 hours and 10 minutes. I'll figure out a way. I decided to get one more tool, the Heavy Hitch toothbar. Anytime I have the Heavy Hitch toothbar, I also have this Allen wrench to fit it so that I can quickly remove it or install it as needed. Doesn't take but a few seconds. Better check for fuel. Oh my goodness, I need to put fuel in. I hope you're beginning to get a sense of how long it takes to get prepared. We talk about tractors for business once in a while, and folks want to pay you a certainly hourly rate, and they say, well, you haven't been here but an hour. That may be right, but oftentimes it's several hours just to get ready. So make sure you account for that in your rates if you use an hourly rate.
Well, I didn't get a cheeseburger, but I did have a few moments for a cold cut sandwich. We're estimating that this project will take 2 hours. It'll take an hour each way to drive. It took me 3.5 hours to get ready. Let's say 30 minutes to unload. That's 8 hours total. I'm sure I could have saved an hour or so without the camera, but it was still a lot of time.
Okay, well, I think we're about ready to go. I got Christy here, a rake and a shovel and a broom.
Not so much.
I mean, I know I don't need one, so it's got to be for Christy. And,
I run the camera.
Well, you're going to be busier today than that. Okay, so we've got the Heavy Hitch toothbar, we've got box blade, and we've got a land plane.
Okay.
We got Johnny,
You got me.
got you,
What more do you
and
need?
a shovel and a rake. I can just stay home maybe. So we've got the one photo, that's all we've got. We don't really know what we need.
Right.
I intended to load up Johnny too as well. Just didn't have time.
Okay.
So, but we're gonna make it.
Johnny can do it.
Yeah, I hope Johnny can do it. It's wet. I think that'll help us. I hope this gives you a flavor of what it's like going into a project when we don't know what's actually going to happen. And another aspect of this episode is how long it takes for us to get everything ready. Maybe I'm just slow.
Maybe.
Hey, you're not supposed to agree so quickly.
You said it first.
Do you like shows on TV that say "to be continued"?
Not usually.
Yeah, most people don't. I don't either. But in this case, that's what we've got. Tune in for our next episode where we actually do the project at Captain D's.
Maybe we'll get some fish.
Maybe so. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.